All right, so today we're going deep on something super important in Islam.
Yeah.
Respect for parents and showing them, duty.
Yeah.
Big topic. And you guys sent in some really interesting stuff from the Quran.
Yeah.
And some pretty significant hadith, too.
Absolutely.
I think our mission today is to really unpack what all that tells us about this obligation.
Yeah. It's a fascinating collection of material. We've got, from the Quran, we're going to be looking at Surah Al-Isra,
Okay.
Surah Luqman, and Surah Al-Ahqaf.
Right.
These sort of lay down the ground rules. And then some really interesting hadith from collections like Ahmad, Bukhari, and Muslim, Ibn Majah, Nasai, Abi Dawud, and Tirmidhi.
Wow.
Each one kind of giving us another angle on, how important this is in the faith.
Okay, so for the learner listening, we want to do more than just say you should respect your parents.
Yeah.
Right? We want to get into the why.
Yeah.
Like what it all means and maybe even find some surprising connections, between these different teachings.
Yeah, that's the fun part.
We'll keep it clear and engaging.
Absolutely.
But thorough.
Totally.
Right.
So I think what's at the heart of it is realizing that this isn't just some cultural thing about honoring your parents.
Yeah.
It's a religious duty. It's got serious spiritual consequences.
Right.
It's like woven into the very fabric of what it means to be a Muslim.
Okay, so let's unpack this a little.
Okay.
We got to start with Quran.
Absolutely.
Surah Al-Isra, verses 23 and 24.
Right.
Super powerful. It says, "And your Lord has decreed that you not worship except him, and to parents good treatment." Like, whoa, right there, side by side.
Yeah.
The command to worship God, and right next to it, how to treat your parents.
Yeah.
What does that tell us?
It's huge, right? I mean, it tells us
it's
not just like these two things are important. It's that there's a connection. It's like how we treat people, especially our parents, reflects something deeper about our relationship with God.
Okay.
Like we're supposed to submit to God.
Yeah.
Right? And one way we show that is by how we treat the people who literally brought us into this world,
Wow.
I mean, it's like the Quran is saying, look, your first obligation is to God.
Right.
And how you treat your parents.
Yeah.
It's a huge part of showing that.
That's a really interesting way to put it.
Yeah.
So not a suggestion. It's
Right.
a decree.
Yeah, it's a command.
A divine instruction.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's move on. We got Surah Luqman and Surah Al-Ahqaf. Both of them say, "And we have enjoined upon man care for his parents." Enjoined.
It's not a suggestion, is it?
No, it's not like...
It's not, hey, if you have some time,
It's a rule.
Yeah, it's a must.
It's mandatory.
God's making it clear, this is on everyone.
Okay.
And if you look at the verses around these, they often talk about how much parents sacrifice, all the hard work they put into raising kids. So that word enjoined, it just hits even harder, It really shows how much Islam values that parent-child bond.
Okay, so we talked about the Quran. Now, here's where it gets really interesting as we move into the hadith.
Right.
There's one that says, "He who wishes to enter paradise through its best door must please his parents."
Whoa!
Like, that's a direct line
Straight up.
from how we treat our parents to our eternal destination.
Yeah.
So what does it mean to please your parents in this context?
Right, because it's not just about, blindly doing whatever they say.
Right. Is it more than that?
It's got to be more than that. It's about showing them you respect them, that you love them, that you're grateful for everything they've done. It's about actually wanting them to be happy, understanding what they need and trying your best to give it to them.
Okay.
But here's the thing. If they ask you to do something that goes against Islam,
That's where you have to draw the line.
right, we'll talk about that a bit later.
We'll get to that,
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Now, we can't talk about parents in Islam without talking about this super powerful hadith about the guy who asked the prophet, peace be upon him, who deserves the best companionship.
Right.
And the prophet said,
Your mother.
your mother 3 times before he even mentioned the father.
That's huge.
That tells us so much.
Yeah, it's not subtle, is it?
No, it's not.
I mean, why that emphasis on mothers?
Yeah.
Well, think about it.
Yeah.
Mothers, they go through pregnancy,
Right.
childbirth, the early years of raising a kid.
Right.
That's a huge sacrifice.
Yeah.
Physical, emotional, it never ends.
Yeah.
It
really doesn't.
And this hadith, it's like recognizing that unique role,
Okay.
And the prophet saying, your mother, your mother, your mother.
Right.
Before even mentioning the father. It's like he's making it so clear.
How important mothers are.
Yeah.
The care we owe them. It's a powerful image.
Super powerful.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get to some takeaways from all this.
Okay.
The first one is respect through action.
Yeah.
The teachings really emphasize that respect isn't just about saying please and thank you.
It's got to be more than words.
Right. It's about what you do.
Yeah. Actions.
How do we put that into practice in our daily lives?
It's different for everyone, but think about providing for your parents' needs, you know?
Okay.
If they need help financially, practically, maybe they just need help around the house.
Yeah.
Be patient with them. Listen to them.
Yeah.
Take their advice seriously. Speak to them kindly.
Right.
Visit them. Call them. Remember them in your prayers.
Right. Even small things can go a long way.
Exactly. Even little gestures.
Yeah.
Show them you care.
Okay. That leads us to the next takeaway. Gratitude to God. The sources, they seem to connect how we treat our parents to our relationship with Allah.
Right? It's like honoring your parents is part of worshiping God.
Okay, so how does that work?
Well, our parents are the reason we're even here, you know?
Yeah.
That's a huge gift from God.
It is.
And so when we show gratitude to our parents, it's like we're also showing gratitude to God for giving us life in the first place. You know, they raise us, they take care of us.
They do.
It's a reflection of how God cares for all of creation, you know?
Wow.
So when we honor them, we're acknowledging that gift from God.
Right.
We're recognizing his blessings in our lives.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a powerful connection.
Okay, and there are rewards beyond this life too, right?
Absolutely.
Our sources talk about blessings in this life and big moral and spiritual benefits for having a good relationship with your parents.
Yeah.
So what kind of blessings are we talking about?
Well, it could be baraka, you know?
Okay.
That's a huge concept in Islam.
Yeah.
It means like divine blessing. It can show up in all sorts of ways. Okay.
Material well-being, inner peace, stronger family ties.
Right.
And morally, you know, it helps us develop good qualities.
Okay.
Empathy, patience, selflessness.
Yeah.
And then spiritually, it can bring us closer to God.
Okay.
Maybe even a higher place in the afterlife.
Wow.
But neglecting your parents, you know, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Serious consequences.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so there's another really powerful hadith that says, the pleasure of Allah lies in the pleasure of the father, and the displeasure of Allah lies in the displeasure of the father. So this is like that idea of pleasing your parents again.
It is, yeah.
But this time the focus is on the dad.
Right. Specifically the father.
So how does this fit in with all the stuff about the mom?
Well, it shows us that the father's role is super important too.
Okay.
You know, he's the provider, the protector, the guide.
Right.
And Islam really values that.
Okay.
So we need to respect him.
Yeah.
Make him happy.
It might be different from how we show respect to our mothers.
Right.
Because their roles are often different.
Right.
But both are crucial.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Then we have this incredibly evocative hadith.
Oh, yeah.
It says, paradise lies at the feet of your mother.
Wow.
What a powerful image.
So powerful.
So what does that mean?
It's like saying the way to paradise, the ultimate goal. It starts with how we treat our mothers.
Okay.
That phrase, at the feet, you know?
Yeah.
It's about humility, devotion.
Right.
It's saying that even paradise is connected to our mother's happiness.
Wow.
It's like a tribute to everything they do for us.
That's really beautiful.
It is, yeah.
And going back to that hadith about who deserves the best companionship.
Yeah.
The prophet, peace be upon him, saying, your mother, 3 times.
Oh, wait.
Before mentioning the father. It really makes that point. You know,
it solidifies it.
It's not that the father isn't important.
No, not at all.
But it's like the mother is in a
special
category.
It's not about putting one above the other.
Right.
It's about recognizing that mothers, they just give so much, you know? They deserve that extra care and attention.
Okay, so we also have this hadith about deeds ceasing after death.
Yeah.
Except for 3 things. And one of them is a righteous child who prays for him. So how does raising good kids fulfill our duty to our parents?
Right.
Even after they're gone.
It's about legacy, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like saying that the impact of parents lives on through their children.
Okay.
So if we raise our kids with good values.
Yeah. They'll pray for us after we die.
Exactly.
Asking for forgiveness and blessings.
Right. And those prayers, they benefit the deceased.
Okay.
It's like this beautiful cycle of care that goes beyond this life.
Yeah. Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah.
Okay, now with all this talk about obedience and respect,
Yeah.
there's this really important hadith that adds a little nuance. It says, there is no obedience to any created being in matters involving disobedience to the Creator.
Mm-hmm.
So honoring your parents is huge.
Huge.
But it's not absolute.
Right.
So where do we draw the line?
So this is about priorities.
Okay.
Our ultimate loyalty is to God.
Right.
So if our parents tell us to do something that goes against Islam, we can't obey them.
Okay.
In fact, it would be wrong to... Our love for our parents can never be greater than our love for God.
That's a really important balance.
Absolutely crucial.
Okay. And lastly, there's this hadith that broadens things out a little bit.
Okay.
It says, be good to your parents and kind to your family.
Mm-hmm.
So kindness is key here.
Yeah, front and center.
Especially with our parents.
Right, they come first.
So how is kindness different from respect and duty?
Well, respect and duty, that's like fulfilling obligations,
Right.
recognizing their position.
Right.
But kindness, it adds this whole other level.
Okay.
It's about compassion, empathy, gentleness. It's about going above and beyond, considering their feelings, showing them affection, making them feel loved and cared for.
Okay.
Kindness makes the relationship warmer,
Yeah.
It strengthens that emotional bond.
That's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, so to sum it all up,
Yeah.
the Quran and Hadith, they make it so clear how important it is to respect our parents and show them duty.
Absolutely.
It's right up there with worshiping God.
Yeah.
That's how important it is.
No question.
We talked about how pleasing our parents can lead to spiritual rewards, even paradise.
Right.
And the unique status of mothers.
That repetition, your mother, your mother, your mother,
It's powerful.
So powerful.
And respect, it's not just words.
No, it's got to be actions.
Right, we have to show it.
Yeah, show it.
And it's connected to our gratitude to God.
Absolutely.
It brings blessings in this life and the next.
Right.
And the father's role, that's important too.
It's huge.
And while obedience is key, it's always within the limits of Islamic law.
Right.
And ultimately, kindness.
Yes.
Kindness is essential in all of this.
It's the guiding principle.
So we've covered a lot.
We have.
We looked at the Quran, the Hadith,
the implications,
the practical stuff.
How it all fits together.
Right.
It paints a pretty clear picture.
But what about the practical side of things? This text we're looking at, it gives some really good advice on how to put these principles into action.
Yeah.
Like in our day-to-day lives.
I think that's where things get really interesting for, our listeners. Because it's one thing to understand like the theology behind it, but it's another to actually translate that knowledge into something tangible.
Yeah, exactly. So let's get into that. How can we actually apply these teachings in our own lives? Okay, so like, where do we even start with trying to put all of this into practice? I mean, honoring your parents, it's a lifelong thing, right?
Sure. It is, yeah. It really is a continuous journey, a journey of growth, both for ourselves and in our relationships with our parents. But I think, this source that we're looking at today, it actually does a really good job of kind of breaking down this big task, this monumental task into smaller, more manageable steps.
Okay, well, that's good. That's reassuring. Because to be honest, when you think about like everything that our parents have done for us, all the sacrifices they've made, it can feel like whatever we do is not enough.
I get that. Yeah, I understand that feeling. But remember, like the emphasis in Islam is on making a sincere effort. It's about your genuine intention. And even the smallest acts of kindness, the smallest acts of consideration, they can carry a lot of weight.
So it's not really about these big grand gestures. It's about, the everyday moments and choosing to really live by these values.
Exactly. And one of the probably most powerful ways to do that, especially as our parents get older, is through cultivating patience.
Patience, right? That virtue that's always easier said than done, especially, when you're dealing with, let's just say, strong personalities.
You're telling me it is not easy, but the text reminds us that, patience is really a cornerstone of Islamic teachings. Yeah. Particularly when it comes to how we interact with our parents. Think about it. Our parents were incredibly patient with us when we were growing up, right? When we were going through all the ups and downs of childhood.
Right. They put up with our tantrums, our endless questions, and like all the teenage drama.
Exactly. And now as they, get older and maybe enter a new phase of life, they might need us to extend that same patience and understanding to them, right? Like they might need more help with, everyday things. Their memory might not be as sharp. They might get frustrated more easily.
So, like, how do we actually cultivate patience in those moments? Like, when it feels like our buttons are being pushed? Because, let's be real, no matter how much we love our parents, they can still drive us crazy sometimes.
It's true. Family dynamics are complicated, but the key, according to the source, is to try to remember all the love that our parents have given us, all the sacrifices that they've made. And when you approach those difficult situations with that perspective, it becomes easier to respond with kindness and compassion, rather than with frustration.
It's about shifting your mindset, right?
Yeah.
Instead of thinking, ugh, why are they doing this? It's sort of like, okay, what can I do to help? What can I do to make this easier for them?
Exactly. It's about embodying that prophetic example, of treating our parents with kindness, speaking to them gently, and just honoring them, even in those moments when they're feeling vulnerable.
Right. And isn't there also a hadith about lowering our wings of humility to our parents, just like a bird would care for its young?
Yes, there is. That's such a beautiful image, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really speaks to the tenderness and care that we're meant to show our parents, especially as they age.
Yeah, it's like patience is not just like being passive,
Yeah.
It's more like an active way of showing love and respect.
Yeah.
Okay, so beyond patience, what are some other like tangible things that we can do to honor our parents? Like, what does this source recommend?
Well, prayer plays a big role here too. The text really encourages us to make sincere dua, which is supplication, for our parents' well-being.
So it's not just about like taking care of their physical needs, but also asking Allah to bless them.
Exactly. We're encouraged to pray for their health, for their happiness, for their guidance, and also to pray for their closeness to Allah, both in this life and in the hereafter.
And even if we're not physically with our parents, we can still make those prayers for them. Right?
Absolutely. That's the beauty of dua. It transcends physical distance. It's a really powerful way to stay connected, is to stay connected spiritually with our parents no matter where we are in the world.
It's almost like, we're keeping them in our thoughts and in our hearts and our daily lives through our prayers, even when we can't be there in person. Now, this source also talks about this interesting idea of seeking forgiveness for any shortcomings we might have had towards our parents.
Yes. And I think this is something that probably resonates with everyone, right? Because, none of us are perfect children. We've all had moments where we weren't as patient as we could have been, or maybe we were disrespectful, or maybe we just weren't as attentive.
Right, like maybe we snapped at them, or we dismissed their concerns, or we just took them for granted. I think we all have regrets.
We do, yeah. And this concept of seeking forgiveness, it gives us a way to heal, a way to reconcile. It's about acknowledging those moments where we messed up, repenting for them sincerely, and then trying to do better in the future.
So it's not just about feeling guilty. It's about taking that guilt and turning it into something positive.
Exactly. And it's also important to remember that even if our parents have passed away, we can still seek forgiveness from Allah for anything that we might have done wrong.
Okay, so it's like that door to reconciliation, it's always open. So really comforting thought, actually. Now, beyond prayer and seeking forgiveness, are there any other like practical everyday things we can do to honor our parents?
Yeah, the text actually highlights a few really beautiful examples. It talks about the importance of offering practical help, helping out with day-to-day tasks, especially as they get older.
Right, like helping with the cooking or the cleaning, running errands, just being an extra pair of hands when they need it.
Exactly. It's about, making their lives a little bit easier and showing them that we care about their well-being in a very tangible way.
Yeah, it's amazing how much those little acts of service can really mean to someone,
Yeah.
especially as they get older and maybe they need a little bit more help than they used to.
Yeah. And it's not just about physical assistance. It's also about staying connected,
Yeah.
communicating regularly.
So making time for phone calls, visits, even just a quick text just to see how they're doing.
Exactly. Just to let them know that we're thinking about them, that we care about them, that they're part of our lives, no matter how far apart we might be.
It's like those little gestures, those little points of connection. They're like the threads that hold the family together.
Yes, exactly. And another thing that the text really emphasizes is involving our parents in our decision making, like
Right.
seeking their advice, valuing their opinions.
Especially on those like big life decisions, right? Like marriage or changing careers or finances.
Exactly. Even if we don't end up following their advice exactly, just the act of consulting with them, it shows them that we respect them. And it shows them that we recognize their wisdom, their experience.
It shows that we value their perspective, that they're still an important part of our lives, even as we become adults and we start to, make our own way in the world.
Exactly. Remember, our parents have already been through a lot of what we're going through now. They have so much knowledge to share, so much insight that can be really valuable to us, even if it comes in a package that seems a little bit outdated or a little bit different from our own approach to things.
It's about honoring their lived experience, even if we don't necessarily agree with all of their conclusions.
Yes. It's about keeping that communication open and making them feel like they're valued members of our lives, even as our roles change and evolve over time.
I really love how, this source gives us such concrete advice. It takes these really big spiritual concepts and it turns them into things that we can actually do.
Yeah.
Like in our everyday lives. It's not about being perfect. It's about trying your best to really strengthen those family bonds.
That's the beauty of Islamic teachings. They offer this really profound spiritual framework, but they also give us, very practical guidance on how to navigate all the complexities of human relationships.
Okay, so we've covered, patience and forgiveness and, helping our parents and communicating with them. Is there anything else that we should mention about like the practical side of honoring your parents?
I think we've hit the main points, but one thing I do want to emphasize is that honoring your parents, it's not just like a one-time thing.
Right.
It's something that we have to be mindful of all the time.
Yeah, it's about showing up insistently every day in big ways, in small ways, just really making sure that our parents feel loved and appreciated.
Yes. It's a lifelong journey, a journey of love, respect, and gratitude.
Wow, that's a good note to end on, actually. But before we get too sentimental here, there's one more thing that we need to talk about. And that's like addressing some of the common misunderstandings about this topic. Because, sometimes those misunderstandings can actually lead to some pretty harmful things.
Yeah, it's really important to clear up those misconceptions because, the principles of honoring your parents, they're very clear. But there can be a lot of cultural baggage, a lot of misinterpretations that can make things confusing.
Exactly. So let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll try to unpack all of that and we'll talk about what it really means to honor your parents in the true spirit of Islam. All right, so we're back. And I think it's time to, address the elephant in the room. Because, while this whole concept of honoring your parents is so central to Islam, and also something that people get wrong sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally agree. It's really important to clear up any confusion and to really understand what honoring your parents truly means, according to Islam. Because sometimes even when we think we're doing the right thing, we might actually be going against the real spirit of the teachings.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest misconceptions is this idea that honoring your parents means blindly following every cultural tradition, even if it goes against what Islam teaches.
Right. Cultural norms can be so powerful, and sometimes they're just so deeply ingrained that we don't even realize we're following them. But, as Muslims, our ultimate loyalty is to Allah and to his guidance as it's revealed in the Quran and the Sunnah.
So if a cultural tradition goes against Islamic principles, even if it's related to how we treat our parents, we have to put our faith first.
Exactly. It's about, being able to tell the difference between what's truly Islamic and what's just, a cultural practice. And the source we've been talking about, it's very clear on this point. It says that following Islamic teachings is the most important thing, even if it means, maybe going against some cultural expectations.
Yeah. It's like walking a tightrope sometimes.
Right.
Trying to balance respect for your heritage with staying true to your faith.
Yeah.
Especially, when you're dealing with different generations in your family who might have different perspectives.
Yeah, that's a whole other layer of complexity, isn't it? And it brings us to this issue of, obedience versus respect. Because sometimes people think that honoring your parents in Islam means, you have to obey them no matter what they say.
And like we were talking about earlier with Surah Luqman, that's just not true. There are limits to obedience, especially if your parents ask you to do something that's clearly forbidden in Islam.
Right, exactly. While Islam emphasizes respect for parents and fulfilling their rights, it also acknowledges that our ultimate obedience belongs to Allah.
And that distinction is so important because it protects people from situations where a parent might try to misuse their authority or ask their children to do things that go against Islam.
Absolutely. It's about understanding that respect doesn't mean blind obedience, and that there are boundaries in place to protect everyone, regardless of their role in the family.
And this leads us to another really important point that this source brings up. And it's a sensitive topic, but it's something we have to talk about. And that's the issue of parental authority.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, some people might twist this concept to try to justify, abusive behavior, whether it's towards their children or even towards their elderly parents.
Yeah, and that is a huge distortion of what Islam teaches. The text very clearly condemns any kind of abuse. It doesn't matter who's doing it or who it's happening to. It makes it very clear that parents have rights and children have rights, and nobody has the right to hurt anyone else.
So if someone is being abused, it doesn't matter what their position is in the family. Islam not only allows them to seek help, but it encourages them to do so.
Absolutely. Protecting yourself from harm is a fundamental right in Islam.
Yeah.
And honoring your parents should never be used as an excuse for abuse.
Right. It's a reminder that sometimes, standing up for what's right, standing up for Islamic values means taking action to protect yourself or someone else from harm, even if it means, disagreeing with someone who's in a position of authority.
That's such an important point. It's about understanding that real respect and honor never involve, tolerating abuse or letting it continue.
Wow, we've really gone deep today, haven't we?
We have.
We've talked about some tough stuff. But I think these are conversations that we need to have. We need to really understand what it means to honor our parents in the true spirit of Islam.
I agree. It's a topic that deserves a lot of reflection and an understanding that goes beyond just the surface.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the main message that you hope our listeners will take away from this?
I think the most important thing to remember is that honoring our parents is a really beautiful act of worship, but it's also complex. It's about cultivating love and compassion and respect, but it's also about recognizing the boundaries that our faith sets.
It's about, upholding the rights of our parents, but also upholding the principles of Islam.
Exactly. And I really hope that our listeners feel empowered to approach this relationship with wisdom and compassion and a real commitment to living by the true spirit of Islam.
I think that's beautifully said. And until next time, dear listeners, may you find peace and understanding in your journey of honoring your parents and strengthening your connection with Allah.